Evening, you wild roving band of questers. Simplicity here. It's been a minute since we dropped in for a Stone of Destiny portal report, but I got one coming at you. And it's a spin-off from that download we had come into the reality tunnel a couple weeks back, where we were looking at the 3 gateways of initiation. And this lunar cycle that got kicked off today by the Sagittarius full moon is the first of these 3 initiatory gateways, which are lining up with the next 3 full moons, and they are interconnected with the pursuit of the Stone of Destiny, that 4th jewel of the Tuatha-De-Danann. And I got quite a download coming in around this one. It happened quite unexpectedly. I'm not going to get into the cards just yet because I have to lay a baseline for you, just so you know what we're working with here. Oh yes, there's a tale to tell. Now, I know that around that time that I did the download for the 3 vultures that brought in 3 gateways of initiation up ahead, at which we've arrived at the first one, I said that I had found a key. In fact, do I still have it handy? I do. I had found this key. It was a key I had misplaced. I didn't misplace it. I put it there for an intention, although I don't remember the intention it was put there for, but I just kind of called it a collective key. I felt it was more a symbol. I know that we were supposed to find a tangible key with that one reality tunnel that we were traveling down. And though I found this key, I was like, this isn't the key. So I felt it was more of a collective key. And I knew that I would find a tangible key, but I just wasn't sure when. And it was surprising me how it was taking quite a long time for it to come through, which is kind of funny. Because if you remember with the initial reality tunnel we had, the first thing we had to find was the feather. And a lot of people were surprised how long it took to find that feather, right? And when we found the feather, it didn't look like much. And all of this, means something, I'm sure, which we will discover in the end. But I was thinking about this key, and I was on one of my walks, and I got guided to go to my little library again and just see what was there. I was told there was a key there for me. And so I went to the little library, and I'm going to have to lay this all out for you. And first thing I see is this book. Harry Potter, A Journey Through a History of Magic. Now, I know people have mixed feelings about J.K. Rowling. Let's not get into that, okay? This is not the point. The point is I was led to this particular book as my key. And when I opened it to this page, and then you'll understand why it has its significance. Now, ahead of time, I picked at random 2 dragon tarot cards, which I've put in the 2 pages of this book that I want to show to you, that I opened simultaneously, okay, when I came across this book, because I knew my key was in here, but I didn't understand what I would find when I opened up the book. And I thought it would be kind of cool to just have a card to associate with each. So I have no idea what's on these cards. I didn't look at them. I picked them out face down and then discreetly slid them in the pages, used as bookmarks, but I knew whatever these cards have to say play into the message here, okay? So this was the page that I opened up to. Let me just take out this card and I'll set it aside for a minute, and then we'll look at that card together. And it is the flying keys. Look at all those keys. And isn't it funny? Because when I found that key that I had placed in a certain spot for a certain purpose that I can't remember right now, and I called it a collective key, it's funny because here's a whole bunch of keys, a whole bunch of flying keys. And I've loved all the wind imagery, and the spirit of the wind's been coming in a lot, right? And so I thought that was pretty wild for that to open up there, okay? And then the next, well, let's see what this card says. What does it say about the keys? Because I feel that this card I picked from the Dragon Tarot is a key to these keys. And what is this key we're gaining here? Ooh, Page of Pentacles. Okay, so this is an initiatory gateway where we are entering a realm of study in wizardry. All right, so this should be interesting. We are coming in as the students, so we're about to get schooled, or it seems fitting. I feel like this is entering the cauldron of Dagda. We have not been able to quite transmute that energy. We're still in that collective soul soup together, and we're still integrating all of that stuff that was left undone back there when we had our whole, Pluto retrograde cycle last year through fall. And I feel like we're moving through that energy again. So there's something we are learning here. We're entering some kind of study. And maybe this is the thing that is going to help give us this area of study. Now, this is funny because this was the next page I opened to, and it directly related to another reality tunnel download that came in about the wizard sending out its henchmen in the form of griffins to steal treasure, right? And I think of treasure, I think of those 4 jewels of the Tuatha De Danann. They're also known as the 4 treasures of the Tuatha De Danann. And what would that 4th treasure be? It would be the Stone of Destiny, right? We've been hearing a lot about destiny swapping or attempts to do so. We all know that's not possible. Now, where did it go? There it is. Okay, there it is. Can't wait to see what this card is. And this is the very next page I opened because I was like, ooh, I found a key. What does this key relate to? I had to know. So, I did a little bibliomancy. If you're not, familiar with bibliomancy, you can take any book, you hold it in front of you, you ask your question. It doesn't matter the nature of the book. And you spin it clockwise 3 times in your hands, and then you open up the page at random. And it's a little bit of old-timey fortune telling, okay? But this is what I opened to. Buckbeak, the hippogriff. And this made me laugh because I was like, wait a minute, the hippogriff. Whoa. So we have the griffin, which is really the combination of the eagle and the hindquarters of the lion, which I was equating with Aquarius and Leo. And now we have the eagle combined with the hindquarters of the horse, which automatically makes me think Aquarius with the energy married with Sagittarius. And this let me know that this particular lunar cycle that we are entering in is a chariot of sorts, and it will move us forward in a powerful way into that expansion. Eventually, once we get through all 3 of the moons, those 3 gateways of initiation. And it's wild because you want to know what the other 2 full moons are. There's one on June 21st in the sign of Capricorn. And this is significant because Capricorn on the cardinal cross is in that north node position when you lay out the cardinal cross as it's traditionally drawn up. I mean, currently we have Aries sitting up there north node, but on the cardinal cross, Capricorn rules that spot, okay, up there in the north. And then again on July 21st, so mirrored moons, just, a month apart from each other. And that July 21st moon will, of course, be introducing in the energy of what? Leo season, right? And we have another full moon on July 21st in the sign of Capricorn. Again, 2 full moons, 2 north position full moons on the cardinal cross, symbolizing that stone of destiny. Remember, I laid it out a while ago. The stone of destiny is associated with that cardinal point of Capricorn. So I thought that was just like really wild. And then, of course, I had to go down a rabbit hole with this because I don't know nothing about the hippogriff. I really don't. And honestly, I never really got into the whole Harry Potter thing myself. I know it's a big phenomenon. But for me, it's just not anything that I was ever particularly fascinated by. I mean, I think I saw a couple of the movies or something. I never felt drawn to read the books. It just isn't my bag. It's not my thing. That being said, I had to go down a rabbit hole with that and learn all about that. What is the hippogriff? How is it different from a griffin? You know, aside from the obvious, okay? And there's actually a whole series of connection points I made. So I want to share that with you. But first, and we're going to do a little read here too, okay, just to get some details. First, I have to see this. Oh my gosh. Because see, when I think of the eagle, I think a great spirit too, just when looking through the lens of my Nemina Comanche ancestry, I think of great spirit. And I also think of horse as being equated with power. And it's also movement forward. So I almost was viewing the energy of the hippogriff like the chariot coming forward to move us to the next chapter, the next stage, the next jewel or treasure of the Tuatha De Danann, and hopefully carry us from the south node up to that north node where we can activate our destiny, right? Look what came out. We got the sun. So it's the chariot. This is the key. But there's something about this. There's something we have to learn in the process. And I feel like our mettle is going to be tested. That's what I got. In order to obtain the key to the chariot, right? We're going to have to pass some tests. You'll notice that there's like this bat energy here at the top, and that's rebirth energy. So there's some opportunity to recover something that was lost. Or was it really ever lost? Can a destiny really be stolen? I don't think so. Others would argue this, okay, but this is where the details come into play as far as the hippogriff is concerned. So let me just dive into this as quickly as I can, but I feel like it's really essential and it has a lot to play into this particular initiatory gateway we're about to enter. Okay, the hippogriff is a combination of a horse and an eagle. And the word itself, hippogriff, comes from ancient Greek, hippo meaning horse and griff meaning griffin. So you could say the hippogriff is a descendant of its ancestor, the griffin. Okay, it's an evolution of the energy. It was first described by an Italian poet by the name of Ludovico Ariosto, who lived from 1474 to 1533. And he first talked about the hippogriff in his poem. It's a very famous poem that a lot of other works have spawned off from, and it's been very inspirational to many writers and poets throughout time. And that is his poem, Orlando Furioso. And I feel that this theme of Orlando Furioso is really playing out in this challenge that we're going to face. And with the mirrored energy that's coming in here, because we've got a Gemini new moon that will be coming in on the 7th of June. Okay, I do feel like there is this like mirrored experience that's happening here. Mirrors are significant this cycle. Two-way mirrors, this energy coming in. And yes, that applies to all level of two-way mirrors, you know. You look into the mirror and the mirror is looking back at you. And the ways that other people can look at you through a two-way mirror without you knowing as well, unless you know how to test for one, which I do, okay? Don't ask me how I learned that skill. We're also talking about magic mirrors. We're also talking about smoke and mirrors, the glamour that can be cast. But let me digress and let me get back to this poem, all right? I took notes because it's a lot to remember, but I feel like all of it is pertinent. So let's just set the story here, and you can see how the themes will sort of play out in your life. And we're going to go ahead and dive in with a little bit of the Divine Tarot as well to get some further insight. So in Orlando Furioso, Orlando is a Christian knight, And the story unfolds against the backdrop of a war between Charlemagne's Christian paladins and Saracen army that invaded Europe in an attempt to overthrow the Christian empire. And this takes place on the worldwide stage within this poem, but also includes a trip to the moon, okay? So it gets a little cosmic, it gets a little out there. And I love this, the trip to the moon, right? Because this moon is what leads us into this particular initiatory gateway, and all of us will be traveling through these next 3 moons with these themes carrying throughout. So I thought this was interesting. Now, as far as the characters that take part in this story, there's, of course, the Christians, the paladins, the Saracens, the soldiers, some sorcerers are thrown into the mix. There's a giant sea monster called an orc, and the flying horse that's a combination of an eagle and horse, which is the hippogriff, okay? The core heart of the story is Paladin Orlando's unrequited love for a pagan priestess named Angelica. More on that later, okay? And his love for her was so deep and so absolutely unrelenting, but so sadly unfulfilled, that it made him lose his mind. He went bonkers. He went mad. And, you know, initially they came together because Angelica would like escape from the castle of the Bavarian Duke Namo, and Orlando pursued her, and the two of them would have secret adventures with each other. And that came to a screeching halt once Angelica saved a wounded Saracen infantryman named Medoro, and she fell deeply in love with him. She ran off and got hitched with him. They eloped in Cathay, and they left poor Orlando behind with a broken heart. And that's when he pretty much went berserker, okay? And he went and he stormed all throughout Europe and Africa, destroying absolutely everything in his path. He was just in a rampage, okay? Maybe Orlando felt like his destiny was stolen from him. Now, the English knight Astolfo journeys to Ethiopia on the hippogriff in this poem, and the reason he does this is he wants to find a cure for Orlando's state of mental unrest. And he flies up in Elijah's flaming chariot, okay, to the moon, where everything that is lost on earth is to be found. And that includes Orlando's senses, his wits, all right? So he finds his senses, he finds his wits, his clarity, and he brings it back in a bottle and makes Orlando sniff them. And in doing so, Orlando has his sanity restored, which makes him fall out of love with Angelica. He gets over it because in the end, according to this romantic Italian poet, and this poem, by the way, is considered in the vein of chivalric romance, but it's kind of funny because the author explains that love in and of itself is a form of insanity. You know, we all get a little moonstruck, right? Even in the movie Moonstruck, they have a reference in that movie to this particular poem. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how this poem has really influenced a lot of different creators. You could say the poem itself is a muse, okay? And this poem, you know, sometimes it garnered a lot of criticism, right? Because it didn't necessarily follow a traditional structure, and there were multiple plots running at the same time. In fact, there's a whole other love story that factors strongly in here, and we'll get into that perhaps in a little bit later of a download, but I really just wanted to fixate on this initial love story here because I feel like this is the theme that is coloring our experience with this particular initiatory gateway. So it's interesting because it's considered, you know, a chivalric romance. That's its genre, right? But really, the whole point of the poem is to refute this ideal of chivalry. And it demonstrates the way human senses are prone to fallacy, and their fair share of judgment. All right. So I do feel like all these themes are playing out right now, too. Like, we may not have all our wits about us. We may have all gone a little bit mad. We may be caught up in a hall of mirrors. We may not have the full view of our storylines and even what role we're playing in it. We have to remember we're dealing with Pluto retrograde. So we're really diving down into the shadow right now. We're searching for that sunken treasure in the cauldron of Dagda, and we're hoping to pluck a jewel from its depths, right? But that remains to be seen right now. You can even kind of compare this story of Orlando Furioso with the myth of Andromeda and Perseus, especially the scene where the woman is chained naked to the rock at sea as a sacrifice to the sea monster, but is rescued from the jaws of death at the last minute. And that's kind of this initiatory gateway that we are passing through. But oh, the reward on the other side, okay? But we are going to have our mettle tested. So there's a real challenge coming here. And you know, there has to be the ending of one identity, one view of oneself and one's world before there is the possibility of receiving the empowerment of the initiatory gateway. Now, I also spotted other themes in here. You know, it made me think of the whole hunt between Caradwyn and Gwion, who later becomes Taliesin, you know, and that shape-shifting hunt that they go through where he took some of that, you know, brew, some of that potion in that was earmarked for her son, swapped destinies, so to speak. But he ended up getting, you know, kind of a win out of the deal, even though he got caught in the end. So we know there's like this trickster energy. I mean, he ended up being the great bard Taliesin. He ended up being Merlin, basically, you know, this wizard with these powers, these empowerments. But usually we don't get these empowerments without heading through some tricky territory. So I feel like that's what we're heading into here. And we know since these three initiatory gateways were introduced with that medicine, the vulture medicine, we do know that something's going to be sacrificed here. Something is lost. And it's going to challenge us, okay? It will challenge us, but there is a chariot that carries us forward as a result. So let's check it out here, okay? Bottom of the deck energy, 10 of Swords. Oh, I guess we're in the berserker stage right now. Somebody's about to go berserk, man. They are. They're going to be raging for order, right? Somebody is not happy with the way things have turned out here. They are rebelling against divine justice. They are rebelling against the judgment that has been made. They don't agree with it. They've gone a little bit mad, I have to say. But we're all mad here, so it's okay. You know, that's what they say at the Mad Hatter's Tea Party anyway. And sometimes we have to lose our heads to actually be found and to find a new way. So let's just dive into this here. I want to see what is the heart of this initiatory gateway that the collective will be entering. Let's get all the details about this particular campaign, this particular stretch of the journey here. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the whole collective for this, all right? Oof. Slippery, slippery cards here. It's a slippery, slippery situation. Shuffling for Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Ophiuchus, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. You know, it also made me think of that brew, right? It made me think of that brew that Caradwyn was creating there. And I really honed in. I was just strongly drawn to the pagan princess and her name, Angelica. And it made me think of angelica root. And so I had this whole story come forward, you know, that perhaps there's some enchantment in place that's made somebody go a bit mad. Could it be that wizard that initially sent out the griffin to steal treasure has actually transformed into a hippogriff? Are we finding the key here? Are we getting closer to the plot? Okay. And maybe somebody's been working with a little bit of kitchen witchery, maybe making up some brew. And what do you need to lift this glamour? What do you need to dispel the madness and come back to your senses? And I thought, oh, angelica root. So if you don't know about angelica root is a root that is said to have been gifted by Archangel Michael. It was given as a gift to humanity because it wards against all evil and malevolent influences. It's also known to ward spaces and protects you and shields you with a light. And there's different ways you can work with it. One lovely way to ward your home is to put a piece of angelica root in each corner of each room. And it just is like, you know, a metaphysical security system. It really does hold down the energy and protects from any kind of outside interference. It can also be used as a bath. You can make angelica infused honey, and that can invite in a little sweetness too. And it's medicinal, which is nice, but it is a very potent, a potent ally in that regard. It connects you to the celestial realm. It connects you to the angels, and it also helps to ward your third eye, your insight, your intuition, so you don't lose your senses, as in your clairs, as in clairsentience, as in your intuition, okay? So there's something here about perhaps falling for some kind of charm, falling for some kind of seduction, maybe imbibing something that is dulling the senses. Could there be a particular priestess at the wheel here that's leading others to their doom? Potentially. But you have to be tempted in the first place, right? So who can you really blame in this situation? You can't necessarily put the blame outside of you. But just as an initial point, you might want to look at getting your hands on some angelica root. Oh, yes, we got a Knight of Wands here in reverse. Oh, look at that. He's got a spoon. He is stirring the pot. He is ready to stir up the pot. I think this is the rampage portion of this storyline. Fire sign energy. Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. This is moving forward very recklessly, okay? And this is how this moon is coming in. This moon is coming in hot, but it's like very contained, right? It's sort of like pressure boiler effect. I think this will become a little bit more evident as time marches on during the cycle. Let's just say that. Okay, let's look at what is the heart of this particular initiation. What is at heart of this particular initiation for the collective spirit? What's at the heart of this particular initiation for the collective spirit? Give us some details here. What's at work with this particular initiation? Let's see what we got here. Oh, Ace of Cups in reverse. Do you see? It's that disappointment. It's what we think has been lost. It's what we think has been spilled. It's that feeling of I've been ripped off. I've been foiled again. And the anger that's felt about that, the disappointment in regard to that, when really the Ace of Cups is not about having anything outside of us fill our cup. It's about us filling our own cup. So this is what the quest is about. It's to actually obtain the cauldron of Dagda. I feel this is that gross cup action. This is, you know, when we're selfish, when we're clinging, when we're holding on to a particular outcome. And only if it turns out this way is it just. Only if it turns out my way, the way I saw it, is it the right outcome? Is it true destiny? And there's something here about losing the plot, okay? Not having this correct. So I feel like this is about reclaiming that holy grail. It's about reclaiming that cauldron of Dagda. Not all is lost, but if you want this, you're going to have to quest for it. You're not going to just have it handed to you. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so what is crossing us on the way to reclaim this lost opportunity, to reclaim this cauldron of Dagda? What spirits will we encounter along the way? Do we have spirits that are allies to us, or are they foes on our path? Will we face a challenger, a nemesis, or will we obtain the strength of the spirit ally? What are the odds for us in terms of what's working for or against us on this quest, spirit, as we move through this gateway of initiation? Oh, it's taking its time. It's taking its time. Oof, there we go. The Empress. Don't worry, it's our Hail Mary moment, ma'am. We got Virgin de Guadalupe here. You might want to send up some prayers as you go for this. I think the terrain's going to get a little tricky. If you want that rose, you got to grasp the thorns. You know what I'm saying? This is time to call on the higher part of yourself for sure. Your desire to elevate, to rise above has to be greater than your desire to cling to what may have quenched your thirst at one time, but could leave you wanting more now. See, maybe that's what you don't see. And that Empress energy is about transforming the South Node Libra energy into its exalted form and rising on up to the North Node to meet the Emperor Aries at that point of destiny. Okay, so this looks like an ally. This looks like an ally. The parts of us that have grown and have lost our attachment to that which disappoints, with the Four of Cups here. There's a certain release that comes with accepting the disappointments, accepting the lack of fulfillment. We shouldn't allow our pride to cause us to go on the rampage, okay? So this is an energy we need to be aware of here. Let's see what the basis of this issue is. What's the beef here? What is this unrest is about? What is causing this ire to be stirred, this frustration, this feeling of being wronged? What's the basis of this? Where is this coming from for the collective? The truth. The Ace of Swords. Look at this. There's a feeling of a certain web being intentionally woven to really bind someone, to keep someone stuck to an unfortunate fate here, perhaps by a particular pagan priestess. This is possible. If that's the case, and if you feel like you are bound to something, or like your energy is all bound up, or if your mind is bound up in confusion because you feel like you were robbed, try Angelica root. I'm telling you, it came in. It came in for a reason. It came in so strongly. So I recommend maybe putting in a little Angelica root into that cauldron of Dagda to try to sweeten up those waters. It may make a difference. But I love how this came out crossing with the Empress here. So this is that Libra South Node energy exalted, cutting through the confusion, cutting through the ties that bind to set oneself free. You are not trapped, but you're going to feel like you are, because it's smoke and mirrors. So there's something you're facing here. It's a thorny issue, but if you want that rose, you got to grasp the thorn. So there's a particular knot here that's been cantankerous. I feel like you felt bound by this thing for a long time. But once you arrive at a certain truth, you're going to be able to cut through it. And you need your clarity to do that, right? So there is this hint here, just with the poem and the way it came in, that there could be some confusion work going on. Now, could this be at the hands of some priestess throwing some confusion workings around? Most certainly it could be. It could be, especially when we're on a quest such as this. But it could also be caused by gossip. It could be a web of deceit that's been woven to tie someone up and immobilize them from taking certain actions just because they'll come up against so much resistance. All right. Well, let's see. What are the collective's past consequences coming forward now? The actions that they took, how are they rolling out in terms of the consequences they'll have to face as they enter this initiatory gateway? How are those past actions playing out in consequences for the collective right now? What are they going to have to make their way through? What are they going to have to cut through in order to find the way forward? Your fear. Whoo, I told you, smoke and mirrors, glamour. Be prepared for a lot of glamour. Your challenge is going to be to not get caught up, to not get attached to the grief, to not get attached to the drama, the fear, the confusion. Don't allow yourself to get tied up in knots. Move into this present moment. Mind your energy, mind the energy around you. Notice how the swords are not even touching her. They're all in a state of suspended animation. Look, it almost appears like it's a little bit illusory, and she knows this. She's really running her own energy, right? So you can stay in the calm eye of this and have the clarity that you need to cut through the illusion. I feel like this is some obstacle that's a trick. It's not real. It's something that's been cast. It's not really an obstacle, but it's been cast to be very convincing, to seem like it's some way that you're tied up, that you're immobilized, that you're unable to take action, okay? It's woven like a web. I mean, it is intended to have that effect. But you have a certain truth, or you will gain that Fragorok, the sword of truth, the answerer. When it's pointed at one, they have to give the truth. That's the rule. If you have the strength to pull it from its sheath, and it will never, never fail. That is that first jewel of the Tuatha De Danann, okay? Once you pull it from its sheath and you actually take the action to cut through that knot, you've achieved the Spear of Lu, right? In the meantime, don't get taken in by the smoke and mirrors. There's something you're going to have to remember here. It reminds me of that that song, Mind's Playing Tricks on Me, you know, Scarface. It's got those vibes, you know. There's a lot your mind can do to play tricks on you. And there's something here about keeping your wits about you. Be aware of the ways that you call your fears to you, just like that hair medicine, which is how the hunt between Caradwyn and Gwion kicks off. He transforms into the hare. So you got to chase down your fear. Don't run from fear. You got to face it. But there's a way you can face it without becoming embroiled and entangled with it. And that's with equanimity, staying in the center. Then you master it. Yes. And this is where the healing is found. Okay. This is where the healing is found. Interesting. 3 little witches dancing together, cooking up concoctions and brews, charming with their enchantments, might have a basis in stirring up this fear or anxiety. I don't know why that just came in like that, but it did, okay? So if we overcome this challenge, if we face our fear, and we cut through the illusion, these supposed ties that bind that really have no power unless you believe that they do. That is the trick, working with trickster medicine. What's the power to be gained here for the collective? What is the power to be gained here for the collective? Oh my goodness. So much came out. Oh, Two of Cups. First, you have to embrace the devil inside. You have to make peace with your own wild nature, the own parts of yourself that you've kept concealed in the dark because you were told that they were bad or somehow shameful. This is about that shadow integration work. It is the dance with Pluto. We got a little Gilgamesh vibes there, okay? It's that whole journey of Inanna and the rise to Ishtar, queen of the heavens. It's the same journey that Persephone went on to later emerge as core. It's that dance with the devil and finding the place of integration, which leads to empowerment, and perhaps even empowerment with another who knows how to meet you in that place where you're on the same side. Now, isn't it interesting too, because that story with Orlando Furiosa, he was a paladin and he stood for the Christians, and Angelica was a pagan priestess, and yet they hid their love. And maybe there's something about having the bravery to really stand up and represent the love that you feel for another, even if others feel like you're not meant to be together. You know what I'm saying? It's that same jilted lover story that goes throughout time, right? Like so much of what's hidden, what's kept in the dark is what casts it in shame. And this might be, oh my goodness, look at this. And there's the Four of Coins. Look at that vulture there. Oh yes, guarding the treasure, protecting it. But what's yours can never be taken from you. This is the end of feeling like you have to hide and you have to hoard and you have to be so, desperate to grasp on to what you feel is your destiny. Anything that you feel like can be taken from you is not truly yours. And so there's a little something here that needs to be overcome too. We got crossing energy coming in here. Six of Swords to the Knight of Cups. Knight of Cups comes in with that falcon medicine. That's Aries energy, okay? With the falcon in Native American birth totem astrology. So I really see this as having the insight, having the emotional wisdom, also having the perspective to pan out. Don't be so close to it. Don't be so embroiled in it. The only reason why it seems tricky or why it seems such a challenge to transform this energy that you feel is currently holding you back, binding you, keeping you stuck at the crossroads, is because you're too close to it. You've become too enmeshed in it. You're overly identified with it, and your energy has become so entangled with it that you can't tell what's yours, what's theirs. This is a bit of that glamour being cast. If you pan out, you're going to get a different perspective. If you become alert to the present moment, you're going to start getting the messages from spirit. And Hawk is messages from spirit. So expect synchronicities to pick up. And when you recover this, it will allow you to find a way to move over troubled waters with the Six of Swords and get to the other side. And notice those swords are not coming forward with you where you're going. Okay? So it's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit tricky getting over these waters. We know there's a sea monster in this cauldron of Dagda. We know this, but we have a way to overcome this if we just really pay attention to the guidance. And remember that story of Andromeda and Perseus and the way the woman was saved just in the nick of time. It may come in at the 11th hour, it may not be on your timing, but sometimes we have to have this tested. Oh, yes. And I do think we have had somebody here behaving a little badly. They have been operating in the dark. We have a high priestess in reverse. working in tandem with a hermit in reverse. Oh, we got the white stag there in reverse. This is definitely a symbol of somebody attempting to thwart destiny. We got 10 of swords. This is the way we opened up. They were once in your back, but now they're coming back around because something needs to be settled here about what was separated unjustly. This is a boomerang moment, okay? So where energy was set out in such a way to create confusion, to create illusion, to create separation, to inflict pain, or with the intention to thwart something that is earmarked for someone, you have to trust that it's not up to you to rampage and try to set that right. This is, something's really going to set you off, collective. I don't know if it's something that comes in that you finally kind of like pinpoint and it riles you up. Maybe when there is the Gemini, Jupiter, Pluto trine that comes in on June 2nd, there might be something in your intuition that picks something up, or you finally spot something you couldn't see before. And if it riles you up, maybe makes you want to rampage, ooh, you're going to have to master this internally. But with the Hermit in reverse and the High Priestess in reverse, this is somebody who's definitely moving against the grain and in the worst of ways, okay? There is some foul play on the scene here. Pisces energy, Cancerian energy, Virgo energy. We found Aries energy come in here. Okay, let's see. We have Libra energy that came in here very strongly with that sword right on top of it. Okay, that was pretty clear signal here. We've got all the fire signs. We have the earth signs too. There's a little bit of everybody on the board here, okay? Just about anyone's game at this point. All right, let's see here. Okay, well, I do like this idea. The power to be gained is to perhaps see through this illusion, to understand that there's nothing to overcome here, that the matter is already obtained. Look at that. We have the world bottom of the deck here. Yes, something is being brought to successful completion, but I could see how pride could create your own fall if you feel like interfering and getting in the way because you think you know better than the hand of fate. Ooh, I wouldn't challenge that if I were you, collective. All right, this is something to be internally mastered. Okay, what's at stake for you if you blow it? Let's look at what's on the line here. Okay, what's at stake for you if you blow it, if you get too much in your ego here with whatever's presented? I do feel like something's gonna come to kind of like challenge you. Are you able to stay in the place of your new perspective here? Or are you going to get caught up and fall into the trap that's being set for you here? It feels like a trap. It's a trap that would cater to the ego, to your pride. Okay, so be aware of this. Okay, what do we got here? Two of Coins, the Lovers, Strength, and the Two of Wands. Oh, there's a lot at stake here, actually. You risk, your balance, okay? You're just about to have your karmic debt paid off so you can move forward. And there is a love story here. There's an ability to overcome the challenges of the past, to digest the experience of the past and rise above what held you back in the past. These lovers actually look quite happy, but remember that story has kind of got like Beauty and the Beast vibes, right? There was this piece about you and your destiny. There might be something about it that people feel like, no, those two things don't go together. And yet they do. It's your way through, it's your way forward, but there's been some kind of division created in the mind by this outside interference that has you kind of like looking in two directions. And look, it's got the key right there. And what is the key? To act on the truth as you see it, not as others see it, with that spear of Lu there. And that's what turns everything around. All right, all right, all right, all right. What's at stake for the greater whole? I just keep doing a few shuffles here. What's at stake for the greater whole in this new world you want to create for yourself? If you fumble now, what's at stake for the collective if they fumble now and get caught up in this? Right? I do think there's something that's going to tempt you. It'll be like a provocation. Oh, the devil. Oh, yes, the devil threatens to burn it all down if you succumb to temptation, all right? You are facing the trickster head on. Somebody is going to challenge you as a trickster, and it's up to you whether you keep your wits about you or if you go mad because of your passion, because of your temper, because of your need to get even, your need of revenge. This requires internal mastery, and it also requires you face the fear, right? What's at stake for the new world you want to create for yourself? What's at stake for this new world you want to create for yourself, collective? What's at stake for this new world you want to create for yourself? Your chariot, the hippogriff, the way forward to the next chapter for you to advance to the next gateway of initiation. There's 3 of them. You don't want to get caught up at this gateway of initiation. You have to just keep going through it until you finally pass. Forget that, man. You have the ability to hop in that chariot and advance toward your destiny. Or you can stay here at the crossroads and go for another round. I don't recommend that, all right? What's the cookie? What is the sweet reward? You know, what's that like dangling golden carrot that can inspire the collective to really stay strong, stay in that place of self-mastery, to exercise this key that will open their cage? I feel like it's got this feeling of being bound up, being stuck, being trapped. It's an old story. It needs to go. There's something that needs to be transformed here. And where you do suspect that there has been a wizard sending out its henchmen to get their hands on your treasure, then, you know, like I said, it's time to maybe get some Angelica on, okay? See what you can cook up there to rectify that matter. Again, okay? The education, the lesson, the learning. And I love here, look, 2 white stags, so 2 people reclaim their destiny. It's sort of like, if you love someone, set yourself free. Interesting. If you set yourself free, you automatically set them free. Then you both reclaim what's rightfully yours. Isn't that interesting? That's a new way to look at it. Very topsy-turvy, very fairy inspired there. Okay. Okay. All right. What's the target we're aiming for here with this particular gateway of initiation? Where should we set our sights? What should our focus be? What is the end result that is hoped to be obtained from moving through this particular gateway of initiation for the collective? What should we be aiming for? What should we be looking for? What should we be fixated on? Oh, I love it. Coming out of the cold, coming out of a place of lack, coming out of a place that all is lost, that there's nothing left for you, moving out of the 5 of coins and moving forward quickly. Don't stir the pot. Knight of Wands. Make them lick